Wow, it's fucking cold outside. It's like 20 degrees. So I figure I'll make another unscripted video. Because, you know, I love making these. I mean, not unscripted, unedited, sorry. None of my videos are scripted. Because I possess the ability to just rattle off an entire spiel. But usually my videos are edited, but this one isn't edited. You get the point. I figured I should make this video because my ongoing crusade about comedy and my previous video about Trevor Moore that I then made a video about, and then that video got a comment, so I figure I'll respond to it a little bit in this video, just kind of elaborating on what I think of comedy in its state in this day and age, because this is a fascinating topic that I could go on for hours, and once you get me started on something, I just keep going, you know, like a fucking wrecking ball or something. I'm a piece of construction equipment over here. So, generally, I've spoken about this in a previous video. I think it was Autism and Sarcasm, where I talk about the three schools of comedy. There's sincere comedy, where basically you're just like very honest and upfront. It's like Bill Hicks or like Adam Sandler. Then there's sarcastic comedy. It's like David Spade. And then there's ironic comedy. And I lump post-irony in there too. I don't really give a shit what the difference between like post-ironic and straight ironic is. Irony just sucks. My generation is irony poisoned to the extent where I can't even talk to some people because they just speak in jokes. They just like talk in this insincere vernacular, and it's impossible to like actually get anything across to them because they don't think in like concrete, like literal terms. And that's what happens when you watch too much Tim and Eric Awesome Show. Your brain just gets like thoroughly fucked. And I think part of the problem too, and someone brought this up on my Trevor Moore video, is that like Trevor Moore is an extremely narcissistic, like snooty type guy. And I would generally agree with that. From everything I've seen, I do think Trevor Moore is extremely full of himself. I get comments all the time that I'm like, you know, narcissistic or snooty, but like for instance, this comment that got me making this video was like, well, Nick, you think your opinion is fact. You state your opinion is fact. And I don't really do that. If you notice, any video I make, I never say, oh, this is a fact. But at the same time, I just have really strongly held opinions that I talk about a lot. And I assume that anyone watching this, like anyone watching a video about Trevor Moore or whatever, will just assume by default that whatever the person in the video is saying is their opinion, because that's how opinions work. And, you know, it's not science or math. There aren't concrete, like, perfectly objective realities. I used to think there were, but I've kind of softened on that over the years, and now I'm just like, well, you know, let people like what they like. I don't give a shit. I don't have time for this. I do still have time to like talk about it and try to win more people over to my side, because I think that's kind of important, but you know, I've just kind of given up on like, oh, everything I like is the best, because, you know, there's some things that I used to like that I don't like anymore. There's some things that I like that I didn't used to like. Not many, but there are some, and that's kind of convinced me that opinions are sort of malleable. Not especially for me, but maybe for some other people. But anyway, like, with Trevor Moore, he's extremely smug and narcissistic and full of himself. And I think this is bad for comedy. I think elitism is bad for comedy. And I think, like, the world needs lowbrow comedy. It needs, like, a form of comedy where you can just, like, forget about, you know, the hassles of life. And, you know, it should be a form of escapism, like other media. And I think a lot of people seem to have forgotten that. And instead of, like, outrageous fun comedy, like the inherently absurd, you just get relatability in comedy. These are two other schools that separate comedy, that you can categorize comedy into. Relatability versus absurdity. Like, The Office is an example of relatable humor. It's supposed to be relatable because it's about people working in an office. It's not even that relatable anymore because it was made in, like, the mid-2000s, you know, during the Bush era, with all this, like, middle management, bureaucratic shit. And that's kind of gone down the wayside as, like, the Silicon Valley opportunists have moved in. The economy has changed a lot since The Office. Not so many people work in office jobs anymore, but that was, like, a very common thing. So that's supposed to be relatable. Dilbert's supposed to be relatable, made by, right-wing shithead Scott Adams, who a lot of people don't even know who Scott Adams is, which I think is funny that we don't even know who our, like, cartoonists are, because that guy's full of shit. And I'm amazed that nobody suspected, oh, this guy that writes exclusively about a boring shithead nerd in an office job might be kind of a greaseball, might be kind of a whack-a-nut, but, Dilbert's a good example of that. There's only one movie I've ever seen set in an office that I actually liked, and that was Office Space. And it's just because Mike Judge is capable of, like, talking about these ideas in interesting ways. And also, it's just like a 2-hour movie. It's not like a fucking 40-season slog like The Office that you have to get through. And none of these characters are exciting. None of them are interesting. Comedy needs absurdity to function. It needs, like, the Three Stooges. The Three Stooges are great characters because they can do anything. They have universal appeal because in, like, one episode they'll be in a courtroom, next episode, they're fucking cowboys, whatever, They have immense applicability, and you never know what to expect with them. Everything is different, it's new, it's fresh, it's innovative. Every Three Stooges short, they're from the fucking 30s, and they've aged way, way better than The Office has. And that's in part, well, just, due to me, just to my particular circumstances. I've never worked in an office because I'm not a masochist, and so I'm a hedonist, and so something like The Office is, like, the least relatable shit to me. But the Three Stooges, who lead this existence of reckless adventure, those guys are fucking relatable as shit. I go like fucking Larry and Curly and Moe. What a fucking swell bunch of guys. Unlike fucking Dilbert living in his fucking cave. Who wants to be fucking Dilbert? Fuck Dilbert, So these are the two schools. It's like absurdity versus relatability. And I talked about this recently with someone. They're like, well, The Office can get absurd. They sing a goofy song at one point. And it's like, that's not what absurdity is. Absurdity is fucking pies in the face. It's fucking all-out chaos. It's madness, You can't just say, oh, it's absurd because at one point a dinosaur comes into the office. Isn't that crazy? That's a banal setting. It's a really bland, boring, artificial, lifeless setting with one outrageous element. That's not interesting. That's not absurd, and it's not even remotely funny. And then I brought up the movie Horrible Bosses, which is a great example of this type of relatable office humor. Not many people talk about these days, but it's kind of the end point of this shitty genre that's just like, I hate my job, but I'm not going to quit, so let me complain about it and how shitty my job is for the next 50 fucking hours. It's got Jason Sudeikis. No, I don't hate. He's funny in some shit, but it's got Jason Sudeikis, Jennifer Aniston, Kevin Spacey. At one point, Jennifer Aniston, she's one of the titular horrible bosses, and she basically, like, sexually assaults her male employee. She's like a dentist, and she, like, sprays his crotch with the water pick or whatever it is that they use in dentist's office. And, this is treated as, like, a hilarious bit. Like, oh, man, this boss sure is horrible. But, what it's depicting there is sexual assault. And in any other context, that wouldn't be considered funny. Like, if the boss was a guy and the employee was a girl, it wouldn't be considered funny. But it's just like, this is so chuckalicious. Really terrible fucking movie. Like, absolute dog shit. But not many people talk about it. But it's the end point of this relatable comedy type mindset that just acknowledges but excuses the banality of evil, right? That's what it is. It's the banality of evil, of this absurd corporate structure that is just, like, so self-destructive, but eventually you just get to, like, accept it, like, sexual assault, that's fucking hilarious. What a relatable fucking show, And that's just, it's just sad. It's just depressing. There's nothing funny about that. But nobody calls horrible bosses problematic. I've never seen like a single video accusing horrible bosses of being like problematic. In the same way I've seen like, I saw a video, it's like shitting on It's Pat, the 90s movie. It's Pat is fucking hilarious. It's one of the best SNL comedies, and it's trailblazing really, in that it's about a non-binary person, and it's, to my knowledge, like probably the first movie about a non-binary person, and the whole movie, the comedy, is derived from the fact that Pat's neighbor is like creepy and obsessive, and wants to know what gender Pat is, right? So the whole movie, you never know what gender Pat is. Pat never even says that they are non-binary, and they could be male or female. You don't know. But it's not just that's the joke. Like, there are other jokes too. Like, at one point, Pat plays the tuba with Ween, and that's just a funny bit on its own. It's a really charming fucking movie. I fucking love It's Pat. It's great. Same with like the ambiguously gay duo. A lot of morons accuse that of being homophobic, even though the whole joke is just that like the bad guys are too invasive of this charming, potentially gay superhero duo. Not homophobic. Of its time, a little dated, sure, but we're really picking the wrong fights here when we should be calling out shit like horrible bosses. I never see anyone shit on horrible bosses to the extent like, Wayne's World, that shit is outdated because Wayne says something remotely offensive at one point. And this is ultimately just self-destructive, because if we accept like blatant corporate propaganda like The Office that just makes this horrible system seem like this charming, quirky little fun bunch, and meanwhile, like we shit on the fun, absurdist, interesting comedies like Wayne's World or whatever, all we're doing is promoting this insipid, banal, intellectual elitism in comedy. And that's basically what I think the big problem in comedy these days is. So, what I don't understand really, I keep turning the camera to the snow because I gotta check the time. Man, look at Denver. It's all covered in snow. My point being that figures like Trevor Moore, figures like Tim Robinson, Tim Heidecker, Eric Wareheim, they speak to a lack of understanding of what makes something funny. And I've said this, and I get a lot of flack for it, that some things are just like, they just trigger your brain where you can't avoid having a direct psychological response. Like, there are certain extremely well-made movies that are just always scary. You watch it, and it's scary. Like The Shining. That movie is engineered. It's not incidentally scary. It's specifically engineered to invoke fear in the viewer. And the same can go for comedy. There are certain things that are just inherently funny to the human mind. And there are certain things that I just don't get how anyone could find it funny, like Tim and Eric's Awesome Show. So whenever I say something like, how the fuck do you like Tim and Eric's Awesome Show, or how the fuck do you find Trevor Moore funny, I'm not trying to be rude. I legitimately don't understand how the fuck anyone finds this funny, because that psychological cue just is not there. There's not a point where I go, oh wow, it's time to laugh now. Whereas like with an Adam Sandler movie or something, I always know when the fuck I'm supposed to laugh, and I laugh like an absolute fucking maniac watching an Adam Sandler movie. And you can show an Adam Sandler movie to an Adam Sandler hater, like the most vitriolic, pissy Adam Sandler elitist hater on the planet, saying, Adam Sandler isn't funny, I grew out of Adam Sandler. You can show them an Adam Sandler movie, they'll fucking laugh, because Adam Sandler is just that fucking talented, that good a comedian, that good at what he does, that they'll watch it and they'll just be like, yeah, okay, it's a little offensive, it's fucking funny. I don't care. I'm letting my mind go. I'm just shutting up and enjoying this fucking movie instead of being an elitist prick. And I think that's important. I'm gonna cut the video off here real quick and start it up again, but hang on. Okay. Yeah, the time was about to run out. So, a great example would be like Rob Schneider, right? everyone shits on Rob Schneider, and I saw a video recently. It was like Eric Wareheim. No, not Eric. Tim from Tim and Eric's Awesome Show. I don't know why I get those two confused. I mean, they don't even look similar. It's just because they're so fucking bland, right? Tim Heidecker versus Rob Schneider, and it was called like the Schneidecker paradox, and it's made by one of these freaking, fucking Nebula sponsorship in the description and everything. Fuck Nebula, also, just buy shit on VHS. Anyway, point being, it was this whole video where, everyone accuses me of stating my opinion as fact, which I don't even really do. I just give you my opinion in like a really direct, straightforward way. But then this video is like just blatant opinion, just shitting on Rob Schneider for 30 minutes, going, oh, fucking Tim Heidecker is so much funnier than Rob Schneider because he's like subversive. He's like a meta commentary, the same boring fucking point I've heard a million times for like 40 fucking minutes. And just like shitting on one comedian relentlessly and then like propping this other one up to like godhood status. And I'm like, what is this? This is just giving your opinion and stating it as fact, except this maniac, what's her name? Fucking Maggie Mae Fish or some shit. She gets hella views. And the reason she gets hella views is because she's just parroting the exact same opinion that's been said a million fucking times. I saw a video the other day. It's like, the father of modern comedy, Eric Wareheim's big, stupid mug, in the thumbnail. And it's like, no, Lenny Bruce is the father of modern comedy, idiot. Anybody knows this. It's not Eric fucking Wareheim. Fuck this guy. I'm so sick of seeing his Tide Pod derpy mug everywhere. It's like, give me a break, And this is what I fucking hate, is like people pretend like their opinions are fact. They shit on me for sharing my opinion. Right? You present your opinion like it's fact. But then they'll be like, oh, well, my opinion is fact because most people agree with me. But the reason most people agree with you is just because you've been societally conditioned into liking something that if you had like good media literacy skills, you probably wouldn't even like. But you just like it to appear popular. Like, if I was more of a coward, then I would just like Watchmen. To be popular, I'd just be like, yay, Watchmen. But I'm like, no, fuck Watchmen. Fuck Alan Moore. He's a creepy pervert, and his comic is ass. And I say that boldly, and I say it proudly, and it doesn't make me the most popular bastard around, That's because I'm not a narcissist, and I'm not concerned with, being the most popular bastard around. I could give less of a shit what people think about my opinions. All things considered, though, I do think Eric Wareheim and Tim Heidecker and Tim Eric Decker and all these fucking guys, they're just clogging up what could otherwise be like a really fun comedy industry that could be like genuinely innovative. And it sucks, it sucks what's happened to comedy. Everyone shits on Bill Maher, and I actually do get like why people don't like Bill Maher. He's smug as fuck. He's on the left, like very clearly, but he just kind of gives off the like, well-educated, ooh, I'm better than you, Ivy League type vibes, whatever. I get that. But really, what do you think Tim Heidecker is going to be in 40 years? He's just going to be Bill Maher. He's just going to become Bill Maher. That's the smug, elitist, highbrow type comedy that you're just encouraging. You're just creating more fucking Bill Mahers, and you're not creating enough Adam Sandlers to balance it out. You're not creating enough innovative, funny, legitimately provocative comedies like Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo. Yeah, you heard me right. I'll say that. I'd rather watch Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo or Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo than On Cinema at the Cinema with Eric Wareheim or fucking Tim Heidecker or whatever the fuck this guy's name is. They're two separate guys, apparently. Yeah. And, I would. I think Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, much like It's Pat, much like Lil Nicky, it's a good fucking movie. It's funny. The jokes land really well. The chemistry's great. It's well acted. And, whatever. You know, freaking Rob Schneider, you know, he's dumb politically. He's out of his element now. You know, 20, 30 years ago, he was at the top of his fucking game. And he's been on SNL. Generally, I'm more likely to trust a comedian if they've been on SNL, especially in the fucking 90s, one of the best eras of SNL. I'm going to trust freaking Adam Sandler to make a funnier movie than fucking Eric Andre. Ooh, Eric Andre, yeah. No, I'm going to trust Adam Sandler because you know, he's next to fucking John Lovitz and shit. You know, I'm going to trust the greats. Okay, you know, and you know, it's just a different way of seeing comedy. But nobody has it. Nobody has the ability to just admit, oh, Deuce Bigalow Male Gigolo is a funny fucking movie that's well written and well acted and tackles the themes of male prostitution in an interesting and fun way that is novel and interesting. Nobody's willing to just admit that. You just can't admit that these days, and it's stupid, you know? Like, I don't like Rob Schneider, the guy. I mean, I hear his stand-up shows are okay, probably. I don't agree with him politically. I don't have to. Most of his movies aren't political. Same with Adam Sandler. Most of his movies aren't political. And I find movies like Deuce Bigalow or Little Nicky or whatever way fucking funnier than I would ever in a million years find, like, oh, here's I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. Oh, so special, Timmy. Oh boy. Yeah, you genius, you. It's just this self-congratulatory narcissism. It's elitism in comedy. I think part of the problem, too, is that people only think of America in this limited binary system whereby, like, you're either on the coasts and you're like elitist and highbrow, or you're in like rural Bumpkinville and you're like lowbrow. But you know, I'm a Denverite, so I'm neither group. I'm a third group of American that isn't talked about much, which is like you're in a city. You know, you have this metropolitan, socially adjusted, acclimatized perspective. Like you understand media and shit because you interact with a complex, vibrant world, but that world just isn't on the coasts, and there aren't like fucking Ivy League asshats everywhere. And I think it's stupid to view America as like this dichotomy. Oh, you're either the coastal elitist or you're like southern bumpkin cud chewer, you know. There's a third type of person. Hell, there's more than 3 types of Americans, and you know, it just completely obliterates like the actual diversity of America, especially with like, you know, underrepresented groups. Groups are way more underrepresented in comedy, like, you know, freaking African Americans, Asians, you know, less addressed groups that should be getting comedy work instead of, oh, here's the 7th post-ironic white guy this week. Welcome to the stage, Alex Bafafaloff, you know, like, when are we going to get, like, diverse, interesting voices who, like, you know, frickin' say something new? I'm sick of this post-ironic shit. I'm sick of this intellectual, narcissistic garbage that just, like, acts all smug and full of itself. Like, I'm so much better than Adam Sandler. It's so far above Adam Sandler and that stupid garbage. I'm an artiste. You know, that's all I see in comedy these days, especially from the Adult Swim crowd. And, like, everyone who, like, you know, oh, Aqua Teen Hunger Force is better than the ambiguously gay duo. I like Adult Swim. Saturday TV Funhouse can fuck it, but Adult Swim is for the true intellectuals like myself. You know, it's just like a really self-destructive mindset. And I think comedy's going down the shitter, but above all else, I guess what I mean to say is that I don't entirely blame Trevor Moore for, like, you know, he's not like the obliterator of comedy or anything. He's just one cog in a much larger, horrible machine that just, like, threatens to make every comedy, like, ridiculously unfunny. And the gears are just, like, turning round and round, you know, and I think that's genuinely terrible. But, you know, Trevor Moore, he's just one part of it, so I don't hold anything against him or anything. He's just a doofus. Like, fuck that. Go watch fucking Big Daddy. It's a funnier movie. It's just Steve Buscemi and shit. Anyway, yeah, that's all I really had to say. You know, I'm sick of all this self-congratulatory Hollywood nonsense. It gets exhausting, I tell you what. It gets fucking exhausting. And me as a Denverite, I just have like such a different fucking opinion on things. It's not necessarily just because I'm autistic. I imagine me being a Denverite, it gives me kind of a different perspective altogether than like, oh, I'm in the rural area or I'm in the urban area. Yeah, frickin' Black Panther, and everyone's like, oh wow, it's Black Panther. Man, imagine being Wesley Snipes. Imagine being in Blade, and then, you know, the actual first black superhero movie, and then everyone's like, Black Panther. Yeah, that's the first one. Yeah, you know, it's just, I don't even know what to think of movies anymore, because barely anyone even knows anything about movies. Barely anyone has even watched good movies, and everyone just watches crap, and I don't know. It's an interesting fucking media landscape we find ourselves in. Anyway, I'm just bored because it's all snowy outside, and I couldn't go anywhere today, and just thought I'd record this, but yeah, just like, make comedy better, you know. Let's get some fucking Anchormans up in here. Let's get some fucking Dumb and Dumbers up in here. I'm ready for a funny fucking comedy. You know, I just hope there's a funny one in the theaters soon. I'm bored. I'm bored out of my fucking head. Anyway, yeah, that's all I had to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's pretty stupid, needless video, but I'm bored.